Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Bitter Upper Lip. My name is Tyler, and today we're going to feature another Georgia craft brewery. This beer we're reviewing today is Caramel Cake Stout. This comes from the Wild Leap Brewery out of Southwest Georgia, specifically out of LaGrange, Georgia. So this is a milk stout. It comes in an ABV of 10.5. Its IBUs are 40, and it has an SRM ranking of 3. Wild Leap is a pretty new brewery here in the state of Georgia. I believe they were established officially in the fall of 2017, so they're not even 3 years old. But the name Wild Leap references to the fact that the two founders pretty much did the positively cliched notion of leaving their day jobs and started a brewery. I believe the story is the guys held a beer fest in LaGrange in 2015. It got such a great reception that they realized that LaGrange needed a brewery. So if I'm not mistaken also, I think Wild Leap is the first craft brewery in LaGrange, Georgia. But they've come into a splash. You can find their beer pretty much anywhere in the state of Georgia. I'm not really sure what their distribution is outside of the state, but most people have a pretty good reception to their beers from what I've heard. I have never had this beer. I literally just saw this sitting on the shelf a couple days ago and decided to pick it up. It has a canned on date on the bottom here of January 11th of 2020, so big plus to Wild Leap for actually dating your beers. We really appreciate it. And if you didn't guess, obviously this being a milk stout caramel cake, I'm assuming this is going off the chain of trying to have a dessert in a can. But side of the can reads, if you don't do wild things when you're young, you'll have nothing to smile about when you're old. Amen, brothers. Amen. So again, I have never had this beer before. This is going to be my first time trying it, but it's been out of the fridge now for about 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and get in the can and see what it's about here. Oh man, I smell it already. Good sign. I don't really have... So it didn't really come out with much of a head. The bubbles that are on top of it are very, very soapy looking. No real fine bubbles whatsoever. Head is dissipating rather quickly. This is a very clean glass. Color, I am getting a little bit of light through the very, very edges of it. Kind of has that kind of like swamp water appearance to it, which is fine. It definitely looks much more black than brown as a stout. Definitely getting some lacing on the side. Definitely probably signaling that 10.5 ABV. Lacing is also very brown, which speaks well to how thick this is potentially going to be. All right, let's get a whiff of it. Oh, wow. So I get a very strong candy smell out of it, but very much a kind of like a milk candy smell, like a Werther's a little bit, but not in a nasty, buttery dactyl kind of way. Getting some brown sugar. I'm actually getting some berries off of it too, almost like a cherry kind of scent. Coffee, definitely. I'm not really getting any kind of chocolate smell for it. I am also getting some kind of burnt sugar notes on it though. I'm guessing that'd be like the caramel. Very faint vanilla smell to it as well. There's almost like a slight kind of woody smell to it too, kind of like very faint, like nutmeg or like a pumpkin pie spice that you would have like on a latte around fall time. It's it's very faint though, but I smell it. So, all right, cheers. Let's give it a go. That's very tasty. So the first thing that I experienced was the mouthfeel of it. It's very heavy on your mouth, but not in a like super big Russian Imperial Stout kind of way. It's very, very silky. So that's the first thing I noticed was the texture of it. It's extremely smooth in your mouth. Tasting much more of the malt character. Definitely some of that good burnt malty flavor to it. A little more of that coffee flavor to it. The caramel flavor is much, much more pronounced than it was on the nose. And actually, and the vanilla as well. Yeah, there's a very almost like creme brulee quality to it. This is what reminds me. My brother makes an excellent creme brulee. He's in the culinary industry. This tastes like a creme brulee to me. And I guess with the cakey nature of it, it's I'm not tasting like a bready quality to it, like nothing that would taste like a birthday cake or anything tasting like a pastry, if that makes sense. This reminds me much more of like a tiramisu or a dulce de leche in a way. Front of the tongue, the first thing I notice is some good bitterness. Pretty much it's middle and the back of the tongue that you start getting some of the sweeter, more caramelly uh, notes to it, which I like. I think it's a real big problem with a lot of these dessert centric beers. The balance on them is terrible. It's pretty much you're just drinking sometimes what tastes like a melted milkshake. It's just far too sweet, and there's no beer flavor to hold up the sweetness of it. And I think far too many brewers make beers where it's the marketing kitsch first and then whether it's a quality beer afterward. This is the exact opposite. This tastes like a very nice balanced backbone of a milk stout that's accented by the burnt caramel and sugar flavors with it. Not getting any of the alcohol whatsoever on it. I mean, other than the mouthfeel having that kind of heaviness to it, which I guess you would expect from a 10.5 milk stout. Yeah, that's delicious. That's excellent. So yeah, I mean this to me, I mean, as I'm drinking it now, it's already yeah, it already smells a little different now that it's gotten out of the can and it's warmed up some. This to me is a penultimate type of after dinner type stout, a dessert stout. I'd even be curious to see if you could make like floats with this. Like if you dolloped in some like vanilla bean ice cream with it, I bet this would be absolutely fire with it. Yeah, and as now it's gone down the glass, I'm able to see the highlights around it a little bit more. And as it's warmed up a little bit, those cherry notes that I detected earlier have kind of gone away. And you're getting much more of that burnt sugar kind of aroma to it. So, yeah, that's tasty. So I was not able to see exactly what the availability on is on this. That is the first time that I've ever seen it, so it may be like a winter seasonal release, but I couldn't find any information stating otherwise. It came in a 4 pack. I believe you can also get this on tap from places. Very well priced for what I got it, but Yeah, if you're a fan of stouts, specifically milk stouts, and if you're like me and you've been burned out far too many times trying like again kitschy dessert centric beers, this is probably one of the better ones I've had. So again, this is caramel cake stout from Wild Leap Brewing out of LaGrange, Georgia. I give it a thumbs up. Uh, Definitely would recommend trying it if you're a lover of stouts. Definitely recommend trying it if you're someone that likes trying, again, more like sweeter type dessert stouts. If you are someone who does not like sweeter type endeavors, if the can was an indication of you probably won't like this. But I will say though that I found this beer to be very, very balanced, and its selling point was on point too. Like it definitely tasted like a caramelly dessert. So without further ado, I'm going to happily enjoy in finishing this up from my quarantine. Oh man, yeah. So until next time, everyone, keep your mind sharp, your heart clean, and your upper lip bitter. We'll see you next time.